Welcome, everyone. This is Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia, one of the facilitators in the Spokane Sangha. And on Wednesdays, we have a really unusual practice that I love. For years now, we have been exploring Zen masters and we read their work. We have read the work of Suzuki Roshi. I can't now remember his name, Beginner's Mind, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. We have read Roshi Joan Halifax. We have read Thich Nhat Hanh. And now we've taken a pivot from the Zen practice to an ancient practice, more of a Mahayana or and even Theravada practice. It's the work of Shantideva, an 8th century Indian monk. And he was very famous for having written basically a roadmap for himself. He was a student at Nalanda University in India, the world's only university for Buddhism in the ancient time. And this work became known as the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. A bodhisattva in this tradition is a person who is committed to staying in the cycles of samsara, staying in this life of misery, to be a vehicle for people's awakening, for people to understand the conditions of their own suffering and minimize them. And so we've been exploring this particular guide, this roadmap that Shantideva had no intention of being still talked about all of these centuries later. Today, I want to bring forward a couple of things. So we're on chapter 7. This is a topic called relying on effort. And there's a translation here we're just going to read the second two, verses. This particular work, the whole thing reads like one giant poem. And a couple of weeks ago, we read the first 2 verses of Relying on Effort, and today we're going to read the next 2. And there's a phrase that I want to bring to everyone's attention. And I just want to offer my interpretation, but I want you to be open to however it lands for you. That phrase is the Lord of Death. The Lord of Death. Remember, we are reading translations from an ancient time and an ancient reference. And I think the Lord of Death can be interpreted 2 ways. One is the literal way where, like in Greek mythology, there is the Lord of Death, Thanatos. There is the Lord of the underworld, Hades. And in many cultures around the world, cultural mythology determined a power that was in charge of death. So that's the literal reference. The figurative, more poetic reference is my own interpretation of what he's referring to as the Lord of Death. And this is something that happens when we lose our capacity to connect with the magnificence of life, and by extension, the magnificence of ourselves. There's a kind of death that goes on within our own hearts and minds. So we become numb to the beauty of life. We become dismissive of the awe and wonder of life. We live a half-life, a deadened life. And so when I read these words of Shantideva, when I hear things like the Lord of Death, I'm reminded that in my own complacency, in my own confusion, I kind of become the Lord and Master of my own deadened perception of the wonder and magnificence of life. So that's just a little bit of Julia's translation, but I want you to be thinking about it. So I'm going to read these two verses, and I'm going to read them twice. And I just want you to play around with them in your own mind for a little bit. To prepare for this, I encourage you to meet your body in a way that's joyful and kind. In Soul Center, everybody's lying down with the exception of the one Sangha member sitting in a chair. And I love that. I love when people come in and rest. The journey of recovery is hard work. It's a lot of effort. And we need more rest than we ever give ourselves permission to have. So if your practice today, as you meet your body, if your body wants to lie down, if your body wants to tuck in, please do. And invite that to be a perfect practice, even if you fall asleep. Know that the wisdom of the Dharma will enter into your consciousness and will tap into your sleeping wisdom in a really gentle, beautiful way. If you prefer to be seated and a little more active, then I encourage you to put your body in an intentional posture. Sit nice and tall so that your spine is straight and your belly is soft. Roll your shoulders back so that your heart is forward and lifted. Close your eyes if you want to, and if you don't, find something to look at. Find something beautiful to keep your gaze. And take a deep breath with me, breathing in and breathing out. This is your time to be with yourself exactly as you are. Breathing in and breathing out. We're talking about relying on effort. And Shantideva begins this chapter with a bang. And he wants to make sure that no one misunderstands him. Effort and its opposite. The opposite of effort in Shantideva's mind is laziness. The laziness of indolence develops when, through being attracted to worldly pleasures, and particularly to the pleasures of sleep, we fail to become disillusioned with the sufferings of samsara. Why do we not realize that while we are caught in the snare of delusions, such as laziness, we are trapped in the net of samsara and held within the jaws of the Lord of Death? Laziness of indolence develops when, through being attracted to worldly pleasures, and particularly to the pleasures of sleep, we fail to become disillusioned with the sufferings of samsara. Why do we not realize that while we are caught in the snares of delusions such as laziness, we are trapped in the net of samsara and held within the jaws of the Lord of Death? He isn't fooling around. So let's deconstruct this for just a second. And let's bring forward the word sleep and laziness here. Shantideva is, in my mind anyway, not talking about sleep figuratively, literally. He's talking about sleep in terms of going unconscious, not being mindful, being unaware, sleeping through your day, being numb through your day. And what's fascinating to me is this was written in the 8th century. And in today's contemporary world, there are so many ways that we fall asleep to our lives, that we are asleep to the magnificence of our lives, of ourselves. We're constantly distracted on social media and Netflix, news, gossip, magazine covers, advertisement. We're bombarded with imagery, constantly droning on a social narrative, a conditioning way of being that none of us will ever live up to or measure up to. We are numbed and asleep by the stories we've repeated over and over and over again on the journey of recovery. There's a narrative that's been around for decades. Once an addict, always an addict. Right? That's a story we repeat over and over. And while that may be true, the truth is it's a setup, because we can never see beyond this story the more we repeat it. And seeing beyond is exactly what Shantideva is calling us to do. The laziness he's referring to is the complacency we have. We hear an adage, once an addict, always an addict, and we just adopt it without ever thinking about it, without ever challenging it, without daring to challenge it. We just jump right into the status quo and go along. And Shantideva is saying, wake up. Don't do that. This is your life. You are a divine, magnificent human being. Your karma, your actions have led you to this rebirth where you now have access to hear the wisdom of the Buddha. That's amazing. And you have an opportunity. You're here not because you want to continue to suffer and to be miserable, but because something within you is whispering. Your wisdom, your ancient knowing is tapping you on the shoulder. It's kissing you on the cheek. It's encouraging you, wake up, love. It's time to wake up and understand the causes and conditions of what make you so miserable. And you can. You can wake up to the causes and conditions of your suffering. You can do that. You're that powerful. You're that smart. You're that resourceful. But it takes effort. Sure, you can fall back asleep. Go into the lazy ways, or you can do something new, daring, risky, even. Many years ago, I was practicing in a monastery, and I remember the monastic who was teaching was talking about the delusion of laziness. And the setup was the stories we tell. And in her mind, and I had never entertained this perspective before, but in her mind, it was the lazy approach to keep repeating a story that sounded like some version of, I'm pretty worthless, I'm no good, I've made all these terrible mistakes in my life, I'm such a bad person. And she was adamant that that's a lazy attitude, which is a little bit harsh in my mind. But nevertheless, I took it on. I thought, okay, we'll play with that. And what she was encouraging is we all have the capacity to make mistakes. We all have the capacity to do things that are unskillful, mindless, unconscious, varying degrees. And we also have the capacity for enormous goodness. And her attitude was similar to mine, which is you must have done something good, something right to be here, to make the effort to come here. So put that into the balance, put that also on the scale. It's lazy to think that we're only this horrible version of our past and ignore all of the other things that we do really well, all of the small kindnesses, all of the thoughtfulness, all the ways that we vulnerably share our emotion and we call people to their highest aspirations of trust and care. So, the effort here, friends, is to simply stand before those moments where we go unconscious, those moments where we're taking the easy way out, and just determine, however, do I need a break? Do I need to take a rest? I've been efforting a lot lately, and maybe what I need most is a little sacred solitude, a little stillness, a little rest. And in doing so, maybe I can come back and restore myself and see myself more clearly, more honestly, more true. I am not just the summary of all my misdeeds. I am also the long list of my goodness. Both together make the whole of me. And when I can wake up to this and understand the conditions motivating my misery or my joy, I slowly begin to wake up to the wonder of being here. And that informs my actions going forward. For the next few moments of silence, maybe make a mantra, something that's encouraging. I will make a new effort to tell a new story about myself. I'm not only my misdeeds. I have negative habit energy and I have positive habit energy. Both make the whole of me. Trust your wisdom. It will guide you. Friends, as you go forward into this day, pay attention to the way you weaponize your own language. The word lazy can be used as a weapon. Little slices taken from yourself of, look at me being so lazy, I'm not practicing the way I know I should. Look at me being so delusional, telling myself all of these negative stories about myself. Again, this is another way habit energy, negative habit energy manifests. And so we really do have to make this effort to stay alert and to cultivate a friendly patience. Wow, there I go again. I just shot an arrow into myself and I've identified that. I've called myself lazy and now I'm shooting myself with second arrows. I'm getting down on myself for calling myself lazy for not doing what I know I should be doing, and so on. And so this is a practice of effort that says, whoa, yikes. Let's take a deep breath here. Let's open this up. And wow, would you look at all this? What's going on here? And simply asking that question is a way to diffuse the confusion. It's a way to open up the space. And by doing so, you create a whole bunch of clarity. It's almost like walking out into one of my fields on a really foggy morning, and the sun's coming up, warming the air, and the fog dissipates. Your awareness, your presence in a gentle, friendly manner has the power to clear away confusion and bring forward light. You are, I am, we are that powerful and that magnificent. We simply need to make the effort to remember that once in a while. Go ahead and end our practice today with a dedication of merit. I'd like for you to come into a posture that's noble. And I'd like you to think of the word noble and just allow it to roll around like a marble in your mind. Noble, what does that mean? Hoity toity? Bougie? Or is nobility something like an oak tree, an 80-year-old oak tree that is simply and profoundly entirely itself? Places on that oak tree that are bare and bent, places in that oak tree are lush and fertile, constantly producing wonderful acorns to reproduce itself, creating all kinds of redundancy, creating shelter, never apologizes for its presence. It simply is there. It simply exists. And we are here. We exist. So how do you want to live your precious human existence? That's a noble question for a noble mind and a noble heart. And I'd like to end sharing with you a sentiment of loving kindness. And it's a way of bringing in any discomfort that you may harbor and hold. So may you go to the edge of your comfort. Maybe step a toe into your discomfort and there be still a moment. May you go to the edge of your comfort. Take a step into discomfort and there be still a moment. Your effort in that, friends, is profound. Thank you for being here today. I look forward to practicing with you again. Until then, namaste.